Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Now Andy Ruiz Jr. has explained that he believes that Tyson Fury will beat Anthony Joshua. He also spoke about when he hopes to get back in the ring, but more importantly he believes that Anthony Joshua didn't really put in a great performance against Kubrat Pulev. At least Andy Ruiz wasn't impressed with it, so therefore he believes that Tyson Fury will just edge it. He believes that Anthony Joshua has never dealt with someone like Tyson Fury who boxes and moves and is awkward, so therefore Tyson Fury will just have that extra bit that will get him through this fight. Now, Ruiz, in speaking about his own fights, has said that he's been training extremely hard and he hopes to return in April. So Ruiz will be back in the heavyweight picture as well, but this year is all about undisputed in the heavyweight division. With regards to the belt, the fights can be brilliant. Obviously, Alexander Povetkin versus Dillian Whyte 2, a potential Deontay Wilder versus the winner of that fight, or Deontay Wilder versus Andy Ruiz could be a great fight. Joe Joyce versus Alexander Usyk. So there are going to be some great fights this year in the heavyweight division, but none of them will be getting a world title opportunity aside from Joe Joyce and Usyk, because they will be fighting for the WBO Interim World Championship. All of the belts will be on the line, meaning they are all tied up for the duration of 2021. There is also a situation with regards to an IBF mandatory. Obviously, AJ has already dealt with that mandatory, and that won't come around again before another mandatory, like say the WBA and the WBO also, because obviously Usyk and Joyce are fighting for the interim championship at the moment, or they will do in April. But there was an order from the IBF for Michael Hunter to fight Charles Martin, but Charles Martin withdrew, and apparently the next in line is Filip Hrgović. So we definitely could be getting Filip Hrgović versus Michael Hunter. Now that is a brilliant fight between two fighters who are probably avoided by those around their position because no one wants to fight them. They're high risk, low reward. So they struggle to get fights, so why not fight one another? So that is a great situation and a great prospect for the future. I mean, Michael Hunter did get an offer from Eddie Hearn apparently, and he was offered this Filip Hrgović fight, but apparently he didn't even get back to Eddie Hearn, didn't even say what he wanted or if the offer was too low, and even tried to haggle at all. He just didn't reply. So that did make Eddie Hearn believe that he didn't want the fight, but he has explained he is 100% interested in fighting Filip Hrgović. So maybe the winner of that fight is someone that Andy Ruiz Jr. could go in pursuit of, because he is in a situation where he does have to fight a name like that, just like Deontay Wilder. They are both coming off of losses, so they need to take a fight to get back in the ring, just to get that ring rust off. And then they can start chasing the bigger fights if those are the ones that they want, which of course it should be, because otherwise why are they sticking around in the sport? So maybe a fight with the winner of Hrgović versus Hunter, maybe a fight with the winner of Joyce versus Usyk, or Povetkin versus Whyte. Those are names that Andy Ruiz Jr. should be looking at towards the later stage of this year, if he is looking to get back to the top in the heavyweight division. Now, with regards to Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury and his assessment, this is what he had to say. I think that's going to be an interesting fight. I fought Anthony Joshua, I haven't fought Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury has a real style, he's tall, he fights tall. I kinda see Tyson Fury winning that fight. I wasn't too impressed with Anthony Joshua's last performance, but he got the job done. I think maybe Tyson Fury might get him. Depends how awkward he is. If he boxes, Anthony Joshua hasn't fought anyone that boxes around and moves around, so we'll see. So there we go, that is Andy Ruiz Jr.'s assessment of Anthony Joshua's chances in a fight with Tyson Fury. I don't believe what he is doing is completely writing off Anthony Joshua and saying that Tyson Fury will definitely beat him. I just think that he's looking at it from one side. He's looking at it from the side that Anthony Joshua hasn't faced a style like Tyson Fury, and therefore he will struggle. But then again, you have to look at it from the other side and think that, has Tyson Fury ever fought anyone like AJ? He's fought Klitschko, he's fought Wilder, he's fought Derek Chisora. In my opinion, those are his best wins. But neither of those are like Anthony Joshua. He has a different style. Joshua can box long, he can fight up close as well. So he can do it many different ways, much like Tyson Fury himself. So make no mistake about it, it's not going to be all one-way traffic in this fight between these two. It is going to be a genuine 50-50. It's not dubbed that for no reason at all. There are many opinions out there. Obviously, Ruiz is, say, picking Tyson Fury, or picking the reasons why he believes that Tyson Fury can win. but he hasn't gone into the fact that AJ can win and gone into the fact that there are ways that he can. So he hasn't really seen it from both sides. He did say he wasn't really impressed with Anthony Joshua's last performance against Kubrat Pulev, but then that's a different fight. And the style that AJ used in that fight was a little bit different to what he has used before. Not all that different like people might say. AJ's not a hugely different fighter, he's just being more patient and more mature, and he's using his boxing brain instead of going forwards and looking for the knockout. So AJ is evolving, but he's not all that different. And that performance against Kubrat Pulev was a careful, a considered one, and he wanted to use that, I believe, to try a few things out. So maybe a more safety first performance from Anthony Joshua, but still, in that third round, when he got him hurt, did he not go after him? He did. He didn't get the knockout in that round, yes, but then he was patient, he got back behind his jab and his boxing. He knew that Pulev could do nothing to hurt him, so why does he want to give him an opportunity to do that very thing, just like he did Andy Ruiz Jr. himself? So AJ just settled, got back behind his jab. There was nothing that Pulev could do to hurt Anthony Joshua. He wasn't the better boxer, he didn't have the better jab. AJ did. AJ had the more power as well, and seemingly could hurt Kubrat Pulev at will. And yes, it did take until the 9th round to get him out of there, but it was still a win against a top 10 opponent in Kubrat Pulev. And as I said, there were many things in there that AJ was working on that could benefit him in the Tyson Fury fight. That is one thing we have to look at as well, is the fact that Tyson Fury has been out of the ring since February 22nd, 2020. So that's a long time by time June comes. AJ has fought in December, so he has stayed active, or I know he was out of the ring for a year before that, but he has that activity behind him, and I believe that Kubrat Pulev fight will definitely benefit him. And you can look at it two ways. You can look at it in the fact that the fighter is only as good as their last performance, but then you can also say, how good was, say, Andy Ruiz Jr.'s last performance? I mean, it wasn't that great, but then Anthony Joshua did completely outbox him. So there is obviously that situation as well. You can look at it both ways. AJ is only as good as his last performance, so is Tyson Fury, and luckily for Tyson Fury, he's coming off a destructive 7th round knockout victory over Deontay Wilder, winning the WBC championship. But then again, I don't believe Anthony Joshua's performance against Kubrat Pulev was as bad as Ruiz is putting it, or many others as well, because AJ seems to get a lot of disrespect for when he does use his boxing brain, so he can't really win. Look at AJ's resume. I mean, if he wasn't a good boxer, if he didn't have those fundamental abilities, then he wouldn't have beaten those guys. He's beaten more top 10 heavyweights than anyone else in the heavyweight division. Who else has a resume like Anthony Joshua in this era of heavyweights? None of them do. So there must be something that he's doing right. But having said that, Anthony Joshua has a chance to silence all of those doubters in the Tyson Fury fight in June of this year. Guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe if you are new. Thanks guys.